AC बंद कर दो sir, please. So today we're going to talk about the rock system. What? For anything, just leave the one page. Today talk about the rock system because I think I will start the new chapter. Okay, write down rock system. Look, before start the chapter of the rock system, as we know, when we were talking about that formation of Earth, so what was the basic thing we are talking about? Like so many theories of the formation of Earth. When we talk about, so when we talk about the formation of Earth, actually Earth is formed with the so many dust particles, right? So if we talk about the dust particles, they also have that particular dust particles will also have some kind of constituents, like they are that dust particles are made up of some kind of chemical component, right? So everything, if we talk about that at atomic or the molecular level, we can connect directly with that chemistry or the science. Okay? So if we talk about, suppose that how we can connect with the very simple form, just like we talk about that some of the India's region, if we are not considering about the volcanic rock, because this is it, just like we talk about the flood basalt wala composition. Okay? So it is made up of through that lava which float and above the surface like that. But if we talk about the core thing, so then we talk about different types of rock. That means types of dust particles which were just concentrated in the form of either you're talking about the Big Bang theory or talking about the anything, right? So on the basis of the different types of composition, we see there's a different types of metals or the minerals or the ions found in the rock system. Okay, so write it down. The Earth is composed of various kinds of elements, various kinds of elements. These elements are in the solid form in the outer layer of Earth, and in hot and molten form in the interior, which forming different states in the internal structure of the Earth. The major composition
Can you please repeat?
where the molten form in the interior, which forms the different structures in the interior of the Earth. Okay, Sebastian?
Can you please repeat after outer layer?
Okay, in the form of the outer layer of the Earth, and in hot and molten form in the interior layer of Earth, and form different layers in the interior structure. In the interior, like why we are saying that different structures? Suppose that when we talk about that Earth structure, so that Earth has that crust is a proper solidified, right? This has a proper solidified. But then we talk about that when we talk about the asthenosphere, that asthenosphere is that upper 400 kilometer of the mantle, right? Upper 400 kilometer of the mantle. So what we know in that, when we talk about the volcanic eruption, when we talk about the magma, inside of that magma, we remember that M for magma, M for mantle. So here that magma is present in its various form due to whatever the factor, such as your pressure, temperature, density, and so many things. But here also the magma present in its liquid or the semi-liquid form, then again as we enter after the mantle, as we enter into that outer and the internal core, this internal core is proper solidified, right? But the outer core is proper liquid form. So depending on that pressure, temperature, or the composition, or suppose that if we talk about the iron, just random thing, suppose that we talk about the iron, so maybe iron and the another thing is aluminium, so it may have the different level of boiling or the melting temperature, so depend ki which part is made up of which kind of elements, है ना, उसके अकॉर्डिंग इसका स्टेट जो है, लाइक लिक्विड है, सॉलिड है, सॉलिडिफाइड है, सेमी लिक्विड है, it can be changed. Okay, next item. Around 90% the major composition of Earth is made up of 8 elements of its total crust, which constitute the 98%. These elements are oxygen, silicon, aluminium, iron, oxygen, silicon, silica, silicon, aluminium, iron, sodium, calcium, potassium and magnesium. So as we have covered in the science portion, like in the plant, like these are the major elements. That is why when we say that the body of the human also, the organism also made up of these kind of elements. So remember when we talk about that major element and the minor element in the plants, so we say that उसमें आपके जो major elements थे, because of course the plant is taking the nutrition directly from the soil, right? So we talk about the major element, that is P, K, S, C, A, F, E, K, HON, है ना? So that oxygen and nitrogen is present in the gaseous form also, but these are the major elements. That oxygen is here, sodium is here, potassium is here, iron is here, and calcium is here, and Mg भी है यहाँ पे, ठीक है? That Mg is also here, ठीक है? So these major elements are also present in the earth crust. We are talking about that earth crust. Okay, full stop.
And these 8 elements consider 98%.
Yes, these 8 elements constitute the 98% of the earth crust. Like they are the majority. Yes, we are talking because internally, so even we do not know, na. Like when we starting of the geography, when we start about that direct and indirect sources, remember, then how would you know that what it is made up of, like internal or the outer core? You cannot go deep down. So in that direct method, we have talked about that volcanic eruption. So if something is coming from that inside, that is your lava, है ना, and the source of lava, that means up till mental, so you can know, है ना, कि which form it is present. So but you cannot, even after that you cannot talk about the total mantle, total core, you know. So we mainly talk about the crust, because this chapters talk about the rock is actually making up of that upper layer पे, crust की बात करेंगे ना further. So we are just forming the background of that, ठीक है? And next when we talk about that biogeochemical cycle, remember that biogeochemical cycle in that environment वाले portion में, then we talk about there are two types of gaseous and the sedimentary. So sedimentary में हमने क्या लिखा था? Two types of that, two majorly things, that is your phosphorus and sulfur, है ना? So biogeochemical cycle मतलब those components which are majorly present in the rock system. So majorly we are talking about the crust वाला portion, the lithosphere max to max, ठीक है? Next write down. While the rest is constituted by डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट सोर्सेज ना, जो क्वेश्चन है ये आपका डायरेक्ट यहाँ से लाइक आपका क्वेश्चन पूछा हुआ है ना, इट इज डायरेक्टली इनटू दैट प्रीलिम्स वाले एग्जाम में, आफ्टर इन 2020 इट हैज बीन आस्क्ड, ठीक है? एंड द रेस्ट पोर्शन इज कंस्टिट्यूटेड बाय टाइटेनियम, हाइड्रोजन, phosphorus. अच्छा, do not get confused into the magnesium and manganese. Magnesium, it is also the major component of chlorophyll, है ना? Chlorophyll में आपका magnesium होता है, and that is manganese. Magnesium is one of the major constituent and one of the major thing in your 98%, but not the manganese. It is Mn. इसको magnesium बोलते हैं, इसको manganese बोलते हैं, ठीक है? That Mn. Yeah, of course. चलो write down. Manganese, sulfur, carbon, nickel, and other. हाँ, कार्बन आपका साइकिल फॉर्म में, जिधर आप अगर जैसे अभी विल टॉक अबाउट द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ रॉक्स. सो जो आपकी बहुत फॉसिलिफाइड है ना, वो आपके कार्बन में रहेगी. उसमें आपका जैसे इग्निशियस से ज्यादा आपका मे बी सेडिमेंट्री फॉर्म में ज्यादा रहेगा, है ना? डिपेंड्स कि दिस टाइप, लाइक दिस इज द जनरल थिंग वी टॉकिंग अबाउट. कार्बन, अब चलो आप सोचो अगर कार्बन प्रेजेंट होगा तो किस फॉर्म में प्रेजेंट होगा. First of all, if you want to relate it again with the formation of the earth, so that dust particles, carbon, do you think that carbon is that much heavy? Start from where that one is starting from, that oxygen, है ना, connected with the both concept, evolution of the earth and origin of the earth. When we talk about the evolution of life on the earth, so at that time why the oxygen was not present, because it was heavy. Freely oxygen was not present, ना? It was present in the form of that water form only, वो भी आपका not fresh water. But did we have that oxygen in the freely form? Because oxygen has a high molecular weight. So आपको अगर air बनानी है, आपको अगर rock बनाना है, आप air बनाने में what you'll keep the lightest particles, while जब आपका rock बनानी है you will keep the heaviest particle. देखो hydrogen कहाँ लिखा है हमने? Do you think hydrogen would be present in the, like हमें rock बनाना है ना, हमें solidify करना है, हमें storage form करना है. So what we'll take, which kind of matter we'll take? The heaviest form, जैसे कि iron, calcium. So when we talk about the periodic element, so periodic element में आपके ये वाले मेजरली जो आपके डी ब्लॉक एलिमेंट्स होते हैं, एस ब्लॉक और पी ब्लॉक, वो हम रख रहे हैं रॉक सिस्टम बनाने में. नॉट ऑल बट ऑफ कोर्स व्हिच वी कैन डू. ठीक है, 118 हाँ हाँ यस यस सारे आ जाएंगे. आप क्रस्ट को हल्का मत समझो, लाइक क्रस्ट इटसेल्फ हैज अ, डिपेंड कर रहा है कहीं से क्या ज्यादा मिल रहा है. जैसे कि इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द अरावली वाला सिस्टम, वहां से आपको अलग मिल रहा है, कहीं से आपको अलग मिल रहा है. दैट अभी क्या हुआ, मान लो देयर वाज अ नॉर्मल लैंड, अभी क्या हुआ, वोल्केनिक फ्लड, बेसाल्ट लावा बन गया. अब यहाँ पे आपका दिस फॉर्मिंग द ब्लैक सॉइल, और वट एवर द प्लेन और प्लेट्यू, इट विल फॉर्मिंग द मेजर कॉम्पोजिशन ऑफ द आयरन. सो अभी हम लोग करेंगे ना जब टाइप ऑफ इग्निशियस एंड सेडिमेंटरी एंड मेटामॉर्फिक, देन वील सी द चेंजेस इन दैट कंस्टिट्यूएंट्स आल्सो. So this is a statement from your NCRT, because your UPSC takes the reference of the NCRT. That's why we are just mentioning. This is a general information. Here it is not a specific. Write it on. Though, THOUGH, though the number of elements, making up the lithosphere, are limited. They are combined in many different forms. To make up many varieties of minerals. Now make the heading rocks. The earth crust is made up of rocks. It is an aggregation of minerals. Rocks is an aggregation of minerals, one or more type. Depending on the composition of rocks, it decides the hardness and softness, comma, soil fertility, comma, its formation, etc. Such as granite. Granite is hard. Soapstone is soft. Okay? It also provides the different colors forming the soil, that is upper horizon of rock system. Horizon, HORIZON. Although soil has a further different horizons of soil system, such as upper horizon of soil system, such as presence of iron, presence of iron in excess, in excess forms red and black soil, forms red and black soil. Gabbro is black. These all are the your key terms for prelims. Gabbro is black. Gabbro is black.
So red is for iron.
Iron,
For gabbro.
हाँ, आयरन इज लाइक बहुत ज्यादा कंस्टिट्यूएंट में होगा तो ब्लैक होगा. ब्लैक सॉइल आपकी महाराष्ट्र प्लेट्यू वाली, इट इज ब्लैक, राइट? सो आयरन इज गिविंग दैट रेड सॉइल एंड द ब्लैक सॉइल बोथ. गैब्रो इज completely black, and quartzite can be gabbro is also one of the component. We'll talk about it. Quartzite is milky white, is milky white. ठीक है. Next standard change कर लूँ. There are many different kinds of rock. There are many different kinds of rock which can be grouped under, which can be categorized or grouped under the three families on the basis of their mode of formation, on the basis of their mode of formation, that is
Sedimentary and metamorphic.
yes, exactly, igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic.
And igneous वो होते हैं जो माइक्रोन से बनते हैं
Yes,
बाहर आने के बाद, और मेटामॉर्फिक वो होते हैं जो अंदर ही रहते हैं और फिर अलग अलग शेप में.
okay. What is the metamorphic? What is sedimentary?
Sedimentary वो लोग होते हैं.
देखो, it's very simple. We do not need to memorize or do the ratification. Igneous is something relating with that igneous, like heat, right? So of course they are the parent rock, you know. So they are the parent rock. That means they are formed through the something new, right? That means they can be formed through the volcanic eruption or something like that. So after that क्या लिखा है? Sedimentary. Sedimentary what we are finding that sediment. What is the simple meaning of the sediment? Collection of something like that, है ना? जैसे कि if we talk about that UP वाला region or any river वाला region, so the plains generally आपके जो India में, when we talk about that Indian geography, we just differentiate the Indian geography into different land forms. Then we call the plain forms. So we talk that plain forms actually formed with that sediment deposition by the rivers, है ना? So आपकी suppose that ये mountains हैं या Himalayan mountains हैं जहां से आपकी क्या आ रही है? Rivers आ रही है. So these mountains are very newly one. India has the oldest and the newest rock mountain system. So Himalayas are the newest mountain system. So that means the rocks of that, whatever materials it are flowing, so they are not that much stable. That's why we generally see this is one of the reason landslide वाला component. और ये जो आपके river system है, such as your Ganga and Yamuna, they are moving from that very good height. So they also have become the very high potential energy, right? We talk about the potential, the kinetic energy. So with the very high, they have the very high amount of energy. So that because of that, यहाँ पे क्या होता है? Erosion होता है. Erosion process or the weathering process of this mountain occurs. So इसका जो particles हैं, that is rock, these are just eroded by the rivers, and in their plane they just do the collection or the sedimentation. या फिर you can say the coastal areas में generally, है ना? At the mouth of the river, where these river go to merge with the ocean, है ना? And like Bengal वाला region. So यहाँ पे भी there is very high deposition. ठीक है? So that means sedimentary rock are formed with the erosion of the igneous. So igneous rocks, that's why it's called as a metamorphic rock. ठीक? Sedimentary is do not only form with that water ka erosion. Here we talking about, when we talk about the sedimentary, we talk about the weathering or the erosion process. Sometimes maybe it can also happen with the movement of the very speedy wind. है ना, विद द मूवमेंट ऑफ द वेरी स्पीडी विंड, वहां से भी आपका रॉक इरोजन होता है, एंड दैट विद द हेल्प ऑफ दैट विंड, this rock particle shift from one area to another area with the help of the weathering, erosion, denudation activities, and so many things, and they just get somewhere else. That is called the sedimentation, है ना. They may have the different composition and may have the similar also. Then we already talk about the metamorphic. General term में आपका metamorphic, here we can see the word metamorphism. What is a metamorphism? Yes, meta मतलब different, morph मतलब actually forms or the structure. So that means due to that weathering or the erosion or any chemical activities, when one form of the rock system converts into another form of the rock system, है ना. When we talk about that insect metamorphism, जैसे कि आपका egg से larva, फिर pupa, फिर adult, so that is called the metamorphism of that particular animal, converting from one form to another. So that means to form the metamorphic rock, there should be some other form earlier, or to form the sedimentary rocks, there is something which should be sedimented. So these are not the parent rock. These, the igneous is the parent. Got it? Now we are going to talk about Sebastian Vishnu. This concept got it now? देखो, whatever the word it does mean, है ना? Very basic need to understand. Whatever this word indicates, you just need to remember that. Accordingly, we talk about the different characteristics. जैसे कि if we talk about, suppose that, just for the sake of an example, do you think that fossil fuels can be, this is one of your question of UPSC prelims, do you think that igneous rocks will have the fossil fuels? Yes, no, huh? Why? Good. Exactly no. But why? Good, Vishnu. Why? It has so much already, very high temperature. Now, can you just go to the lava or anything you'll put in the lava? Igneous is a simple parent rock made up of the volcanic eruption or so many original parent, you know. So can you, if you put anything in the lava, in the lava, will it get preserved? What is fossil fuel? It is a preserved form of the living beings, है ना, in between that rocks. So do you think igneous rock will contain the fossil fuel? It will burn, no, इतना high temperature है उसका igneous का. So do you think it will be just sustain it? No, of course not. Okay, write down. First, make the heading. Igneous rocks. Igneous rocks. Igneous. This is the spelling is correct. Igneous rock. Igneous rock. These are the primary or the parental rock. These are the primary or the parental rock. Form from the magma and lava. Magma or lava from the interior of the earth. From the interior of the earth. The word igneous, the word igneous is made up of the Latin word, ignis. Ignis. That means fire. Okay? Which are formed when, acha, why, okay, what is the difference between the magma and lava, Ankita?
Magma is which is in the atmosphere of metal, and lava is which is the surface of the earth.
Yes, magma is just when it is inside that earth surface, you know. Lava when it comes over the surface. Okay? So why we are mentioning that magma and lava? Why we are not mentioning the lava only? Because lava should be come outside. Why we are mentioning that magma also?
Sometimes magma tries to surface the earth, but it can't. So
yes,
it is in the interior of the earth only.
Yes, and forming the different structures. Tell me any one of the rocks, any one of that interior. So in that volcanism, we have covered the interior and the exterior landforms. So tell me any name of that interior. Remember that saucer shaped, then wave like, right? Then we have the conduit pipe like structure, batholith, laccolith, lapolith, है ना? So these are the structure. So when we are talking, suppose that ये आपका earth crust है, igneous rock we will talk about later. Suppose that ये आपका earth crust है, ठीक है? So यहाँ पे एक volcano था और यहाँ से eruption होके यहाँ पर आ गया. That is also forming the rock system, ठीक है? आपकी igneous rock. but sometime in that structure we have यहाँ पे sometime the lava during that coming to the surface it just accumulate in different forms and forming the interior form of the volcanoes. ठीक है, when it just accumulate in different forms, suppose that वो बहुत nearby आके, because these are the parent rock. So if we talk about from that origin, like rock system जब से बनना start हुआ है ना, so there are so many changes. Ice age आया, फिर heat आया, फिर reptile वाला George, Carboniferous, we talk about the Devonian period, Carboniferous, something like that. So sometime when the magma get accumulated in between that, like in the earth structure, so it may happen ना, suppose that यहाँ पे structure आपका magma हो गया, ठीक है, it may happen ना due to that various external environmental changes, ये वाला part जो होगा उसका वो हो जाएगा, erosion हो जाएगा, है ना, so this वहां जहां पे where the magma will get solidified, it come into that surface, है ना, so that is why the lava and the magma, got it, write down, when the magma cools and solidified, when the magma क्या लिखा last में, means fire, that is fire, which are formed when magma cools and solidifies even below the earth's surface, even below the earth's surface, even below the earth's surface, full stop, with various external environmental changes, with various external environmental changes, when the surface get eroded, when the surface got, actually not get, got eroded, this solidified form of magma forms the surface as its parental form of igneous rock. That means, full stop actually, that means this cooling and solidification, can happen in the earth crust. देखो इतना erosion नहीं होगा कि magma, like we will reach to the mantle level, so we are not talking about the asthenosphere, that is something I want to correct, you know? Magma was trying to come outside, so वो crust के किसी layer में, crust की भी has good enough depth, है ना, so crust के किसी layer में वो solidify हो रहा है, ठीक है, क्योंकि erosion cannot be occur that much that it will reach to the mantle. So write down, solidification can happen in the earth crust or on the surface of the earth, If rate of cooling, if rate, RATE, if rate with respect to the time, of course, with rate of cooling is faster, the time for the formation of crystal is less, the time for the formation of crystal is less, so small, less or almost no crystal forms formed, small, less or almost no crystal form structure are formed. Example, basalt. ठीक है, स्टांस चेंज कर लिखो, if rate of cooling is very slow, then there is sufficient time for the development of crystals, which lead to formation of large size of crystals, example granite. Acha, tell me one thing, what we are actually mentioned that one of the characteristics, pen Just a minute. Can we see the pen? हाँ, literally it's my pocket. ठीक है, ठीक है. चलो. So what we have mentioned just the rate of cooling. Actually, here we have mentioned the one characteristics of your igneous, that igneous rock is igneous. Sorry, igneous rock is crystalline in nature. Crystalline in nature. ठीक है. That crystal can be of different types. ठीक है. This can be a large crystal, that can be a small crystal. So suppose that if we talk about that again, lava. So what do you think? The rate of cooling or the solidification, that means we're talking about the time. Okay. So what do you think? At the surface or at the or interior of the crust, where the rate is fast and where the rate is slow? Where the rate is fast? At the surface or at the interior? Exactly. So that's how we say that upper thing is known as basalt. है ना? So आपका rate of cooling or solidification is very high at the surface because of course surface is facing the environment, है ना? External environment is also facing. So वहाँ पे आपका temperature change हो रहा है. So when we talk about the igneous rock system, the upper surface we talk about that basalt, or initial surface we talk about that granite. ठीक है? So write it down. This rate is,
Basalt and granite is a form of rock.
yes, basalt and granite is a form of rock. Igneous rock की form है.
All crystalline structures are called basalt.
Yes.
So basalt has like various examples and types,
Yes.
and granite have different.
Yes.
So there are two types of crystalline structures, basalt and granite.
Yes, depending on the rate of
cooling.
write it down. Basalt. This rate is faster at the surface. Therefore, basalt is present having small crystals, while देखो इसको ऐसे भी बना सकते हैं. ये तो आपका बेसॉल्ट हो गया, समझ आ गया. ये आपका कंप्लीट क्या हो गया? सरफेस और एक्सट्रूसिव, ठीक है. दिस विल बिकम द इंट्रूसिव. ठीक है. बेसॉल्ट इज प्रेजेंट ऑलवेज एट द सरफेस. रेट ऑफ कूलिंग, ठीक है. यहाँ पे क्या होगा? हाइपो. So first I don't basalt a little bit. I don't know the basalt. It having the small crystals.
Present having small crystals like.
अभी लिखना है, अच्छा लिख लो उसको. गैब्रो एंड ग्रेनाइट. हाँ.
Basalt is present having small crystals like.
एक मिनट. Make this diagram so it will easy to understand. There's one thing is initially we have already talked about, that whenever the questions comes of rock system or anything in the geography, bio is not only the thing to make the diagram. You make the small such representative diagram. That basalt is present at extrusive or at the surface. This complete is a crust also, है ना? But इसका आपका gabbro and granite is a part of that igneous rock system. Okay? On the basis of depth, igneous rocks are classified into two groups. The one is extrusive. The one is extrusive. The second one is intrusive. The second one is intrusive. Intrusive के सामने लिखो, it contains two layers. It contains two layers. The one is hypobasal. The one is hypobasal. ब्रैकेट में नियर बेसल, BASAL, हाँ LL, hypobasal, ब्रैकेट में नियर टू द सरफेस. एक्सट्रूसिव में लिखो प्लूटोनिक. प्लूटोनिक, that is deep inside. Both are intrusive. Here we have, that's why I have already दिख रहा है, डायग्राम दिख रहा है. Do I need to? Intrusive में आपका hypobasal and plutonic, depending on what we have mentioned, depending on the depth, है ना? So hypobasal, इसको of course to just for the study humans have done that. The upper one is known as hypobasal, the inner one is known as plutonic. But both are again the part of the crust or the solidified form of magma in the crust. ठीक है? Next write down. Plutonic. The second one is PLU है. अरे बाबा तुम लोग को राइटिंग का इतना इशू है. प्लूटोनिक, PLU, प्लेटोनिक नहीं है. Plutonic, PLUTONIC. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट राइट डाउन. Chemical properties of rock is both acidic and basic. Is both acidic and basic. Acidic में लिखो. So what we are knowing that we have already done the type of the lava. Remember acidic lava and the basic lava. So that is a lava only, है ना? So we have talked about that presence of the silica and everything, right? So write down acidic में more silica, lighter in color. On the basis of that, you can also differentiate the types of lava. More silica, comma, lighter in color. Baseous igneous rocks में इसको actually पता है क्या बोलते हैं? Mafic word. Baseous igneous rock में write down, also called mafic rocks. Also called mafic rocks. Presence of more iron and darker in color. Presence of more iron and darker in color. Next, these rocks contain no fossils. These rock contains no fossils due to very high temperature. Due to very high temperature, that is around 5000 degrees Celsius and more. That is around 5000 degrees Celsius and more. Okay, which will destroy completely the organisms body structure. Last point, they are found as massive forms. They are found as massive forms and structure as mountains, hills. So when we talk about the formation of the mountains, remember, so either we talk about the fold mountain or we talk about the Himalaya, something like that. So ultimately these are the crust ka portion, right? Mountains, hills, comma, compact rocks, hard rocks, etc. Second type around sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks. These are both original rocks. Bracket में लिखो mainly. These are both original rocks. Bracket में write it down mainly. And also formed rocks. From the igneous, from the other rocks actually. From the other rocks. Full stop. Due to external agents, bracket में, what can be the external factors? And water, right? Okay, write down air, या wind or water, which broken down which broken down the other rocks, bracket magnesious one, into sediments, and transport it and deposit it in its way, first off, over the time period over the period of time sediments are compacted and cemented to form it. This process is called lithification. That is why it is called the lithosphere. Lithification. ठीक है, तो ऐसे कर सकते हैं. External factors, of course, sediments. Lithification में लिख दूं sediments, compaction, हाँ, compacted and cemented. That is the process of lithification. हाँ, ठीक है. Next write down. On the basis of origin, these are three types. On the basis of origin, these are three types. First, physically or mechanically formed. As due to mechanical forces by external factors. Disintegration of existing rocks. Example, write it down. Sandstone, conglomerate, these types of rock system directly asked in the prelims, so make it very remember it all for a long time. Common limestone, shale, loess, etc. LOESS, shale, loess, etc. Second, organically formed. First physical, second organically formed. From living organisms. Example, chalk limestones, coal. हाँ, दोनों में होगा, कॉमन होगा. Chalk limestones, coal, geyserite, etc. So what we are finding here, the fossil fuels are present in the sediment rocks. ठीक है? Last, yes. We no nothing. We have just mentioned hotspot and geyser, so we have mentioned India में नहीं है geyser. इंडिया में हॉटस्पॉट है आपके उत्तराखंड वाले रीजन में, लोअर हिमालयस में. वी टॉक अबाउट द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ दैट गीजर एंड द हॉटस्पॉट वाला रीजन. सो वी नो देयर इज अ लेक, है ना, दैट लेक इतने हाई होने पर भी देयर इज अ हिमालय में चंद्रताल और सम देयर इज अ लेक, उसका जो पानी है ऑलमोस्ट वो हमेशा गर्म रहता है, बिकॉज वो जो आपका वो सिस्टम बना हुआ है यहाँ पे आपका वोल्केनिक कुछ रिजेम्बलेंस है ना. वी ऑल्सो टॉक्ड अबाउट दैट व्हाई द वोल्केनोस डू नॉट फाउंड इन द हिमालयन रीजन, बट बिकॉज volcanoes are basic thing when the two continent or the continent crust is colliding with each other, है ना. So वहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, the submerged plate, the heavy plate is becoming submerged and the heavier plate is उसके ऊपर जा रही है. तो वहाँ पे there's a two plate, either it's a convergent or the divergent. So whatever the material inside, due to the pressure or due to that divergent, so whatever the materials trying to come outside of that, है ना, तो अगर वो completely नहीं हो पा रहा है, but still due to that when it is colliding with each other, they are creating the pressure or the temperature, है ना. तो वहां पे there some kind of weak spot, generally volcano shows करते हैं, volcano से associated show करते हैं, but of course mountain is गीजर नहीं है, हॉटस्पॉट है इंडिया. नेक्स्ट, केमिकली फॉर्म्ड गीजराइट उसी वाले एरिया में जो मतलब जो आपके इस टाइप ऑफ सेडिमेंट से फॉर्म बना हुआ है, जहां पे आपके ऐसे सिस्टम है, तो दैट इज फॉर्मिंग विद दिस स्पेसिफिक टाइप ऑफ रॉक दैट इज केमिकली फॉर्म्ड due to the various chemical reactions एग्जाम्पल अगेन इसमें लाइमस्टोन आपका फिर से आएगा, चर्ट, पोटाश, हेलाइट, चर्ट, पोटाश, हेलाइट, etc. Igneous rock में we haven't mentioned the example, just mention the example just because these questions generally come directly that which one of these igneous rock. ठीक है, granite, of course, granite and gabbro will remember. So granite has comparatively bigger crystal, है ना, because it is present in more depth, जितना depth में उतना. Granite slash gabbro slash pegmatite, of course basalt, volcanic breccia and tuffs. यहां से क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी है आपके प्रीलिम्स में, ठीक है, टफ्स, TUFFS. Ankita, why you want me to prove that my writing is not good? ना ना ना, लिखती मैं वही हूँ, ठीक है, वो अंडरस्टैंड करने का इशू है, क्योंकि मेरी राइटिंग इट्स नॉट वेरी इजी, इट्स वाहियात. फाइन, चलो नेक्स्ट, मेटामॉर्फिक रॉक्स. Metamorphic rocks. The word metamorphic means change of forms. Okay? The word metamorphic means change of forms. That means these rocks formed under the action of pressure, volume and temperature. Under the action of pressure, volume and temperature, which help in changing its form from the parental rocks. First off, the transformation of original rocks. There is a transformation of original rocks causing metamorphism, which occurs when rocks are forced down to lower levels. By tectonic processes, or when the molten magma rises, through the crust and comes in contact with the crustal rocks, or the underlying rocks, which are subjected to great amount of pressure, by overlying rocks. सामने की पॉइंट लिखो. The metamorphism is a process by which already consolidated rocks already consolidated rocks undergoes recrystallization and reorganization of the material of parental rock of the material of the parental rock. साबना की पॉइंट लिखो. These rock contains no fossils because of course in that presence of so much high pressure, volume and temperature which are forcing it to metamorphose, है ना, तो वो फॉसिल कैसे ही कंटेन करेगा, ऑब्वियस है. ठीक है. और वैसे भी ऐसे अगर आपको एग्जांपल याद हो गया दैट कोल इज एग्जांपल ऑफ योर sedimentary rocks, then you not, or in 3 rocks में सिर्फ there is a 1 rock which is containing that fossils, that is your sediment. Okay. This contains no fossils, these rock contains no fossils. These are the hard rocks. These are the hard rocks, sometimes similar to the igneous rocks, sometimes similar to the igneous rocks, and occur in massive forms, and also occur in massive forms. क्या बना के इसी में पॉइंट लिखो, foliation rocks. इसी में एक्चुअली foliation is a process, है ना. तो फर्स्ट राइट डाउन foliation rocks, minerals slash crystals, minerals slash crystals due to temperature or pressure, due to temperature or pressure changes and arranged and get arranged in a band like or parallel manner, that is arrangements of crystals in the parallel forms, that is arrangement of crystals in the parallel bands, parallel bands is called foliation, or lineation or lineations. Okay. Sometimes the minerals slash materials of different groups are arranged in alternating thin to thick layers, and gives light and dark shades of band, This structure is called banding in metamorphic rocks. So how the UPSC gives the question, that is also important. That banding slash or the lineation is the characteristic feature of metamorphic rock. If you have not understood the concept, है ना, so of course you'll get confused. We do not need to even confuse it. Igneous rocks cannot have that banding or something like that. Why it cannot have? Because it is made up of the rock system, like original volcanic magma से बना है. So in that very high temperature, which is forming the main order, you cannot form the banding. This is not about the mineralization or something like that, है ना, वो आपका original है. Sedimentation में क्या है? You are not distributing something कि अभी हम upper layer कर रहे हैं, फिर like अभी upper layer में we are just eroding or denudation process of that heavier or then lighter. When the wind or the water, that is the external factors, when both are just eroding the things, they are not classifying. The sedimentation will be just random. It can form the different structure, है ना. And one thing we have mentioned, the hard rock. So igneous and metamorphic will be hard. Sedimentation can never be hard. It can be, no, because it is made up of the, वो वहाँ पे खुद ही collection से बन रहा है. right? That is forming through the collection. Then how it can be that much hard, like comparatively, right? So when you are forming something metamorphosing is because of the pressure, volume, and temperature, but not that much pressure, volume, temperature, because of which the igneous rock is forming. Suppose that something you are just mixing with something, so heavier particle will go periphery and the lighter particle will go in the center. You know, this generally happens in the centrifugation so many process. So in that process you are going to see that lighter bond, heavier bond, then lighter bond. That is in the metamorphic rock system. So here the questions come, the lineation or the foliation thing is like occur in that which type of, but the lithification process, what is the lithification? We have just mentioned the lithification is that what is lithosphere, that crust and the uppermost portion of the mantle. ठीक है, so lithosphere आपका बना है lithification process. So what is lithification? Subhashri or Ankita? Yes. Vishnu? Yes, that is called the lithification. So lithification is the example of the, is the characteristic feature of the sediment. That's how you remember. Okay, next write it down. Example, economically, इसमें लिखो, next point. Economically, it is the most important rock. It is the most important rocks because they contain slash store mainly the metallic minerals, such as iron ore, gold, copper, etc. हाँ, ये सारे आपके मेटामॉर्फिक में. एग्जाम्पल राइट डाउन. एग्जाम्पल ऑफ मेटामॉर्फिक रॉक्स. लाइमस्टोन. No. Write it down. Say metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks are classified into two major groups. Foliated and non-foliated. Foliated में लिखूं. Non-foliated में लिखो. Gneissoid. Next, granite, slate, marble, etc. ऐसे लिख लो. लाइमस्टोन से आपका मेटामॉर्फिज्म हो रहा है ना, तो किसी से तो बना होगा. सो मार्बल इज मेड अप ऑफ योर लाइमस्टोन. राइट डाउन. लाइमस्टोन से मेटामॉर्फल. सैंडस्टोन से क्वार्टजाइट और स्लेट, etc. The characteristics of rock system or conversion of one form to another we will do in the next class. Thank you.